Welcome to the library workshop, Resources for Finding a Research Topic. My name is Amanda Bezet and I'm one of the reference librarians here at the NCU Library. Today's workshop will introduce you to library and online resources that can be used to locate potential topics for research papers or dissertations. It will provide you with techniques to become more effective at brainstorming topic ideas, searching for research topics, and evaluating the available literature. Now, just one note before we begin, the library cannot assist students with selecting, narrowing down, or developing your research topic. Basically, we can point you to the resources, but we can't give any advice as to what would make a good potential research topic. So you are advised to contact your professors, your dissertation chairs, as well as the Academic Success Center if you need some additional assistance with those sorts of things. So now let's go ahead and begin. We do have a number of learning objectives today, and those learning objectives are located in your workshop outline. Now, if you don't have your workshop outline right now, or you're viewing this as a recording, you can always go to our Research Help drop-down menu and click on Learn the Library. From that screen, on the left-hand side, you'll see the library workshop videos, as well as the outlines and the transcripts. So if I go to the outlines page, you will see the outline for resources for finding a research topic. So you can always revisit that outline in the future. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that if you are viewing this as a recorded session, you can always provide us feedback about the workshop by going to the Library Workshop Feedback Survey. So this is located on the main Library Workshop Videos page. Now, if you are attending this live, you will receive an email tomorrow with a link to this survey as well. It's very, very brief, and we always appreciate your feedback. Okay, so those learning objectives that are located on our outline are to access the research process page for finding a research topic. We'll work primarily from that screen today. Brainstorm and create a topic ideas journal. Use online sources to locate potential topics. Use ebooks to gain background information on research topics. Locate scholarly articles to review the discussion, conclusion, or future research sections. And finally, identify special considerations for choosing dissertation topics. So let's go ahead and get started talking about those things. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to the Research Help drop-down menu and go to the research process. The research process provides a thorough overview of the research process, so you can always navigate through all of these various sections. Today's workshop is going to correspond, obviously, to finding a research topic. So this section will be a really good place to come back to if you need a refresher about the content that was covered in today's workshop. So we will be spending some time here today. Okay, so if we're following along with our workshop outline, the first thing that we need to talk about and think about regarding our research topic is brainstorming. So I'm going to click on the Brainstorming tab on the left. Basically, you're going to need to start thinking about the type of research you would like to do. We've included both in your outline and on this page a number of questions that can help you start that brainstorming process. We do recommend that you record any topic ideas in a log or a journal. So this can be a physical notebook, this can be a Word document on your computer, whatever works for you. But the important thing is to make sure you don't evaluate any of your ideas during this process. Basically, you want to get them all down on paper or on the computer, because even seemingly silly ideas can lead you to a relevant new topic and new research questions. So the important thing is getting that information down, getting those ideas down. So you're not going to pull this topic out of thin air, right? It's going to require a lot of thought process. So like I said, these are some of the questions you can start thinking about. What are your major interests within the discipline? Start broad, and then you can narrow that down. What personal experiences have you had that were particularly significant or meaningful to you as it relates to your discipline? Maybe you've overcome some specific obstacles. Maybe a major thing has happened within your profession. What coursework have you taken that you found the most exciting? Has an instructor ever encouraged you to publish or encouraged you on a topic idea? What theories and concepts are the most interesting to you? And speaking of theories, we do have a page I just want to point out on finding theoretical frameworks or researching theoretical frameworks. So once you have taken interest either in a theory or you've identified your topic and you need to identify that theoretical information, you can find information on how to conduct that sort of research down here. Additional questions are there some things that you have studied which you're more curious about and you would like to explore more? What are your career goals upon completion of your degree? If you're already in that specific industry, what are the major issues or problems you're faced within that industry? You should always have a grasp of that. Just for example, in my profession in librarianship, digitization of resources is a very important topic. Mobile access to resources is an important topic. Patron-driven acquisitions, meaning allowing the students, the staff, the faculty to decide what resources we purchase. Those sorts of things are going on in the field, so you should always be aware of what is happening in your field. And finally, have you read any interesting articles or books related to your discipline? Now, once you start thinking about these and jotting them down, you're going to start identifying keywords. So this can maybe go in the same area that you've written down your topic ideas. One idea is to go through those topic ideas that you've written down and circle what would become the keywords. Because basically you want to break down your topic or research question into 2 to 4 overall main ideas. These main ideas become simple keywords which point the way to research in that particular area. So again, however you want to keep track of your keyword list, that's totally up to you. You might also utilize something called a mind map or a concept map. These are diagrams that demonstrate relationships between concepts, ideas, or other pieces of information. These can be particularly helpful during the brainstorming process because you can start with one idea and sort of branch out into related ideas. So in this example on the screen, I know it's a little small, but we see Buddhism is the main idea, and we created a mind map on Buddhism which leads us to other concepts like Hinduism since they are related. So you can definitely utilize a mind map. This particular one comes from the Credo reference database. So just as a reminder, any of our databases may be accessed by going to the A to Z databases screen. So if we wanted to use Credo reference, we could go to the C's, we could search for Credo, or we could go to the database type of an ebook because Credo reference is an ebook database. Okay, so here we can access the Credo reference database to get to that mind map program. Once you sort of come up with your topic ideas journal and start focusing on some of those topics, basically you'll want to start doing some initial background research on that before you can fully establish that research topic. You can start with an online search. So let's just go ahead and go to Google. I'm going to open up a screen for Google, and words that you can use in your Google search are highlighted in your outline. You can search for things like trending news or trending topics, recent research, controversial issues, policy debates, etc. And you can closely evaluate any online sources, or you should closely evaluate any online sources to ensure that they contain balanced and factual information. So we're going to do a search here, but I want to point out that back on the research process page, we do have an area for website evaluation. So this will really go over how to evaluate information that you found online to determine if it is legitimate, reliable information that you can confidently use in your academic research. So there are a number of questions you can ask yourself, and we do have a full website evaluation workshop if you're interested in learning more about that. But I'm going to go back to our Google search, and let's say our topic was organizational psychology. So I could do a search like trends, scholarly research, organizational psychology, or whatever your topic may be. Maybe it is human resources. You can search for trends, scholarly research, human resources. Then we'll start to see a number of websites that come up. The first one that I'm seeing is Top Trends in IO Psychology. So we're using the internet to our advantage here. We're identifying recent trends or studies in a field before moving on to our scholarly research and further developing our topic. So here I could scroll down and see that globalization is obviously a big topic, but maybe something else catches my eye, like increased coaching in the workplace. So I decide that coaching in the workplace is going to be one of my topic ideas. This is a good way to go about it. Okay, in addition to just doing a regular old Google search, we can utilize a number of more specific types of online resources in order to encounter research topic ideas. One of those types of resources are blogs. You may have used blogs on your own. You may have a blog, but never really considered it a resource for finding information on a topic. But they can be a good source. And the particular blog that I like to demonstrate is called researchblogging.org. This provides information on trending issues, current events, recent research, debates, and more. And for this particular one, they're pulling these from scholarly research articles. So it's a good way to browse as to what is going on in a particular field. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we could go to whatever our topic was, whether it's psychology, maybe it's social science. We could click on that area. And if we wanted to, we could further narrow it down once we start looking at some of the posts. So if I were interested in sociolinguistics, social science, philosophy of mind, cognitive psychology, I could click there to get to that particular topic. Library science, that would be the topic of interest to me. So if I see something like that, I can click on it and look at the other recent articles on that particular topic. You can also narrow it by date on the right-hand side. So if you just wanted to look within the last month, last 7 days, yesterday, today, you could certainly do that as well. In addition to blog websites, you can also look at research news websites. Headlines for recently published research can be found either by searching or by going to specific known websites such as Eureka Alert. So let's go to Eureka Alert. This sort of pulls all of the recent research news onto one particular website. And here you can browse the news by subject area. Or you could obviously search within by using the search box at the top of the screen. But here I'm looking through all of the education news. If I wanted to search within that education news, I could do that as well. Or let's say I was interested in business. There it is, business. So within business, if we were continuing on with our original topic, if we were thinking, oh, let's look at coaching in the workplace, I could do a keyword search for coaching and see what results come up. So it looks like I have 418 documents that came up. And I could click on one of those areas and that could potentially lead me to a research topic. This one's about, do successful leaders produce more successful leaders? So this one's more focused on leadership, and it looks like it's actually coaching in terms of athletics. But we could certainly continue looking through to see if any of these relate more to coaching in the workplace. So we looked at blogs, we've looked at research news websites. You could also look at basic popular news sources and magazines. Using the links provided in online articles or the informal citations within these articles may then get you to the original scholarly publication. But looking at news sources and magazines is sort of an easier way to digest that content while you're getting familiar with the topic and trying to identify that topic. So just as an example of a news website, we could go to npr.org. And this one is very, very up to date. You can browse by news, arts and life, music, topics. So we may want to just go to topics, and let's say our topic is business. We could browse all of the business articles from that particular area to, again, get an idea, or we could search within it. So if we wanted to search for coaching, we could search for that. If we wanted to search for human resources, we could search for human resources. So this is pretty much when you are at the stage where you haven't really identified your research topic quite yet. These sorts of websites are a really good place for you to just start getting familiar with what's going on in the field and seeing what really interests you. The same thing with controversial topics and debates websites. So an example of that would be procon.org. These are useful for learning about different perspectives on the same issue. And this particular website is completely unbiased, and it covers over 50 different issues. So I'm going to X out of that little message, and I could start browsing my particular topics here. Let's say I am in the School of Education and this particular issue interests me, tablets versus textbooks. This will provide an overview as well as the top pro and con arguments. If we continue scrolling down, we will see all of those, and then some additional facts. Some of these have citations where you can link to the original source and additional recommended resources. We're on the page for should tablets replace textbooks in K-12 schools, but maybe there's a more particular issue within this topic area that will be what you actually focus on. So let's say that you want to right now on tablets help students learn more material faster. So some of these particular pros or cons may be what you want to really focus on. Additionally, you can set up news feeds or alerts. So if you're in that stage where you're really trying to focus on identifying that research topic, you may want to set up news feeds using a service such as Feedly. So I'm going to go to Feedly. It's just feedly.com. And if you're an existing user, you can log in. The areas of your interest that you subscribe to will pull content from all over the internet into this one place for you to come and check and see if there's anything related to a potential topic of interest for you. Now, just as an aside, on our Learn the Library page, we do have a quick tutorial video on setting up RSS feeds. Here's our RSS tutorial. It will describe what RSS is and how to use it, and it actually uses this Feedly tool. Now, this is not something that I personally use, but some people find it very, very helpful to just come to one place and read all of the recent stories in that area. So if I wanted to, I could create a board for additional content that I'm interested in. I could add content by clicking on this button at the bottom, and I could do keyword alerts, and I could track a keyword that I'm interested in, whether it's human resources or let's just do coaching in the workplace. Now I could follow the Google News alert for coaching in the workplace. I simply click follow. And it looks like it's really trying to ask me to upgrade, but on the basic accounts, you do get up to 100 feeds for free. But like I said, if you're interested in learning more about this, I definitely recommend that quick tutorial video. Finally, in terms of online sources, looking at additional open access resources may be a good way to go. So you can find online statistics, reports, conference proceedings and abstracts, white papers, association newsletters, industry news, and more. All of this can be very, very valuable, and this is not necessarily things that are found within the scholarly research in the library. A good starting point is by going to the library's guides, which are located under Research Help. And there are guides for each individual school and discipline or specialization within that school. So if I were interested in a particular subject, I could go there and click on, let's just say business. There are currently 22 business guides. And if I were interested in human resources management, for example, I could click on that guide. It provides a wealth of information, including databases, journals, news and magazines, books, background information, etc. But what I wanted to point out right now was the website and statistics area. These are open access resources that typically are coming from government websites or organizational websites, so we're not putting a lot, if any, commercial websites on here. So going to some of these professional organization websites may be a great way for you to find out what's going on in that field and, again, grab a potential research topic. So now that we've seen all these various types of websites that we can use for finding a research topic, blogs, research news websites, popular news sources and magazines, debate and controversial topic websites, news feed websites, and additional open access resources. The one thing I wanted to emphasize is that sources like Wikipedia or other online wiki sources can be helpful for finding background information on a topic, but should never be used or cited in your academic research. So you definitely would not want to cite Wikipedia in your own research. But feel free to consult it because it could certainly lead you to additional sources. Okay, so going through all of these techniques should help you to at least come up with some potential research topic ideas and be consistent about writing those ideas down in your topic ideas journal and identifying what keywords can be used to search for that information. Next, we want to do a little bit of background information on our topic. Reading encyclopedias or handbook entries is a great idea to get familiar with a potential topic. It will give you the big picture, and it can help you decide if the topic really is in line with your thinking, whether you want to continue researching in that area. So we do have a number of e-book databases that can help you finding this background information. So what I'm going to do is go to the Research Resources drop-down area and click on Find an eBook. This is going to provide you a list of all the library's ebook databases. So again, books are going to give the broad subject overview and mention specific theories, researchers, or topic ideas that you may want to pursue further. We're going to get started with the Credo Reference Database because this is a reference book database. So this will contain encyclopedias, handbooks, dictionaries, etc. So we can use Credo's basic search box to search for our topic. So I'm just going to search for business coaching. We'll see what happens. We quickly start seeing our results screen. Coaching in business, the ultimate resource, that this might be a good starting point for us. So we could click on that particular entry. It provides an executive summary, an introduction, etc. So this would be a great way to read an overview of that topic and then maybe even identify more specifically what topic you would like to further pursue. And these resources, unlike Wikipedia, this could be something that you could comfortably cite in your academic research. Again, Credo Reference was the area that did create those mind maps as well. So if you were interested in a mind map, you could go there to the mind map tab, and I don't know if there'll be any results for business coaching. No results there. Let's go ahead and do human resources. Oh, okay, there we are. So here's our human resources mind map. We could click on a particular area to move that mind map around and get related subtopics within that area. Okay, so we've taken a look at how Credo Reference can be used to find background information on the topic and also to use the mind map. So let's talk about other types of books because these were specifically reference books, but the library provides additional books as well. And one of our largest ebook databases is eBrary. So I'm going to go into eBrary. eBrary has close to 200,000 titles. And here I could do a phrase search for executive coaching, since now I've done a little research and I know that it is oftentimes referred to as executive coaching. So of course I'm using the quotation marks here because I'm searching for it as an exact phrase. If you're not familiar with that technique, I definitely recommend revisiting Searching 101 and Searching 102. So we'll go ahead and search for executive coaching in quotation marks. We see 571 documents, so I could start scrolling through my results since they are ranked according to relevancy, or if I wanted to, I could sort by date, and that would pop the newest one up to the top. Another option that I have, in addition to just looking through my search results, and I do see a number of books that would be really of interest to me on executive coaching, but another option I have is to go to the chapter results at the top, because this will rank the most relevant chapters according to our search terms. So at the top of this result, we will see a chapter on critical success factors in executive coaching, we'll see measuring the effectiveness, and then maybe this one catches our eye. What is executive coaching? And that's coming from executive coaching, how to choose, use, and maximize value for yourself and your team. So if I wanted to jump right into what is executive coaching, I could click there and it will take me right to that area within the book. So looking at a book like this in eBrary or another library database will really help you to get that background information on that particular topic and potentially identify a more specific area that you can focus on for your research. So once we've used the internet to identify and brainstorm our topics, we've done a little background information looking at books in the library, and the examples we looked at were Credo Reference and eBrary. Then we may be ready to start moving on and looking at scholarly research articles. A good place to start is our Roadrunner search. Our Roadrunner search searches approximately 95% of the library's database content, so most of the library's content is searched within the Roadrunner search. There's just some very specific databases that provide things like company financials that are not searched here. And basically the goal here is to start some initial research on our topic area in order for us to look at the future research or discussion section. So let me just return for a moment to our research process page, because we do have an area here. It's in a different section. It is looking at the literature gap and future research. This page might come in handy when you're looking for articles that maybe identify future research. So we provide you with an example of a search technique that you can use if you're trying to find articles that specifically say future research is needed in this area. But let's go ahead and start a Roadrunner search. And in our example, I am going to go to the advanced search. And let's say I had settled on my concept of executive coaching. I could go ahead and put that in quotation marks, so I search for that as an exact phrase. And I could also say that I wanted to find an article that does say something about future research. Now, it doesn't necessarily always have a section called that, but this is a good technique that you can use to try to narrow it down. I'm going to limit my search to scholarly and peer-reviewed journal articles, and I'm going to press search. So we can take a look at our search results, and we have about 1,300 results. Something that we may want to do is go to our page options and go to our detailed result format. That will pop all of the abstracts from our articles onto the search results screen, so you can get a better idea as to whether or not it is really relevant for you. Once you have identified an article, you're going to click on the PDF, and then you're going to obviously get familiar with the article if it's interesting to you, but what you might want to do is try to determine if they have a discussion and future research section. So typically that is towards the end of the article. Let's take a look. If we can't find one here, I have another example that we can take a look at. Let's see here. So we have a conclusion. Sometimes it's just in the conclusion. Okay, so perfect. This section has recommendations for further research and for practice. So looking at an article like this is a really excellent way of seeing what another researcher considers important and a need for future research. It's a good way to justify a study in that particular area. So we've moved from looking online to looking in ebooks to then conducting that's scholarly research. So remember that it is a process. Finding an appropriate and manageable topic is research in and of itself and requires a significant investment of time. So sometimes people think coming up with a topic, that should be the easy part, and then researching should be more difficult. But sometimes it's quite a process to conduct that initial research in order to identify that topic. If you are a doctoral student and you are going to be writing a dissertation, there are a number of additional considerations that you'll need to think about. So if you go to Resources for Dissertation Research, the main screen is going to talk to you about additional considerations that you need to think about when coming up with a research topic. The North Central University Dissertation Handbook describes an appropriate dissertation topic as one that is interesting, feasible, relevant, and worthy. And you can definitely read more about the requirements by going to the Dissertation Center. But in addition to those factors, you will need to consider if there is primary literature related to your topic. Basically, primary research is where the researcher participated in that research firsthand and then wrote about it, versus secondary literature, which would be something like a textbook where they're summarizing other people's research. So you'll need to have access to primary literature. Most often those are scholarly research studies. You'll need to have access to tests and measurements that will be appropriate for your study. And we do have a full-length workshop on finding tests and measurements. You'll need access to theoretical frameworks. We saw that earlier under the Resources for Dissertation Research. We do have the Researching Theoretical Frameworks page. You'll need access to seminal research relating to your topic. And seminal research, we have a page on that under the Resources for a Literature Review. Seminal research would be those major studies that contributed significantly to the field, and other researchers cite them repeatedly. So it's highly cited literature. You'll need access to your study group to conduct your study, access to any particular equipment you may need, and IRB approval for your study. So these are the additional considerations for doctoral students. So in this workshop, we've seen how to use the internet to our advantage in order to brainstorm topic ideas, and then move from those topic ideas to identifying keywords and then doing initial background information, typically looking at books and reference books, and then move into our scholarly research. In terms of additional help with your scholarly research, I highly recommend going to Learn the Library and reviewing the Searching 101 and Searching 102 workshops, which will focus on using the Roadrunner search to take a broad topic and then narrow that down using all of the available search techniques. Additionally, we have a quick tutorial video that is called Search Like an Expert. This is sort of like a condensed version of Searching 101, which can be a good refresher if you've already viewed Searching 101 and understood the concepts and you just sort of need a reminder about some of those search techniques. Additionally, back where we were in the research process, you have access to all of the pages on Preparing to Search, which talks about all of those various search techniques that can be used. So this comes once you have, like I said, identified that research topic and broken it down into those keywords. Located in your workshop outline are a few additional resources, a few websites that we've included there, including one from the OWL at Purdue on choosing a topic. So I definitely recommend looking at those. There is also, I believe, a webinar from the NCU Academic Success Center on narrowing down a topic. So we do provide the hyperlink in that outline for that particular webinar from the Academic Success Center. So this has been a broad overview of how to conduct research, initial research, and identify a research topic. Certainly, if you have any specific questions, if you need help with your specific topic, again, the library can't help you to choose or identify that topic, but we can certainly help you to research your ideas. That's what we're here for. So I hope that this workshop has been helpful, and definitely feel free to contact us if you need any assistance. You can contact us via Ask a Librarian, email, live chat, phone, or even text.